What up, friends? It is your friend Robin Black. Sorry, I have zippers on my sleeves and they seem to be bonking on my table. So I hope that doesn't bother you because it might happen. Welcome to the podcast, Enjoy the Hostilities, number 6,412 or 19 or something. 17. I am your host, Robin Black. I like to talk about fighting and I like to dig. Over time, I am less interested in opinions, including my own, and more interested in trying to find information and knowledge. That's what we're trying to do here. If you don't subscribe or follow my Instagram, at Robin Black MMA, that is where you will find my short form work and breakdowns, 1-minute analysis videos, hundreds and hundreds of them. And then this is where I can dig in with you guys and try to search for truth. That's the goal. What are we going to talk about today? Let us talk about, I'm going to San Jose next week. Rory MacDonald will be fighting Fitch. I'm going to talk about that a little bit. Jon Jones, best fighter in the world. I think we can, nobody's around. I'm looking around. If you're listening to the podcast, I'm looking everywhere. I don't see anyone other than Mark, and Mark agrees. I don't know. Pluto doesn't know anything. So I guess we are all in agreement. Jon Jones is the best fighter in the world. I think we can agree that. We will talk about Jon Jones versus Thiago Santos and fights like that for greats like this. And I want to talk about Conor McGregor today. I don't know how Mark will label the Conor McGregor segment, if he does label this separate on the YouTube channel, because I don't know if that's a water segment. I don't know if maybe it's just a segment. Robin Black on Conor McGregor. Who the fuck knows? So Jon Jones, best fighter in the world. Conor McGregor, one of the most fascinating artists at his best. Maybe the best preparer, one of the best preparation fighters ever, at least for a number of performances that he had. And then Rory MacDonald, one of the most, just an ornery bastard. He'd be mad at me for saying that, I think. Rory is a fascinating guy. Next weekend, at least at the time we record this, April 27th, Bellator 220 is happening in San Jose. I get to go there all week long and cover the fights. Talk to some of the fighters, do lots of analysis videos. That's what I love to do. A lot of 1-minute breakdowns. I'll do a few 2 and 3 and 4-minute breakdowns as well. I will cover it for a platform called DAZN. DAZN, if you DAZN. I bet a lot of you consume a lot of martial arts, fighting, boxing, sports. Depending on what country you're in, you might be seeing a lot of commercials from this company, DAZN, all over. It's a streaming service. It's like Netflix, but sports. And in North America, where we live, and America in particular, I live in Canada. Mark and I live in Canada and our families. But in America in particular, it's exclusively fighting right now. Why? Because that's what was available to go after, to acquire. Fighting, the world of fighting is in flux. So the company went after that. They have Bellator. I love to cover fighting, so I will be there. To some degree, and this is the truth, I start to have less connection to the show, the organization, the company, the, what do you call those things? Corporation. I have less and less connection to any of them. I don't care if it's Coke or Pepsi or RC. Doesn't matter. I don't give a fuck. I'm not interested in your Budweiser or your McDonald's or your Nike. I don't care. And although I really enjoy working for and covering the people at Bellator, and I do cover the UFC for a company here called TSN in Canada that I love working for, and I cover bare knuckle boxing, and I cover TKO and BTC and lots of them. But the show is less important to me than the fights and the artists that are doing it. And that's what we celebrate. That's what we've spent a lot of time being interested in, how the business works of things we find interesting, gum or coffee or fighting. I think as a whole, the younger and younger people are that as they age, they're having less and less interest in these things and more interest in the individuals and the fights themselves. Rory MacDonald and Jon Fitch. Let's talk about the fight, but let's talk about a number of aspects. So first, the fight. Rory, you've seen him for many years. We'll take a little look at what his path has been. and the lessons that he has learned on that path. And you've seen Fitch probably for a long time. Both are very well known. Both are high-level fighters. If you have a fairly general understanding of fights, if you've seen these guys fight a fair bit, if you've been exposed to how people like to compare fighters, you've got a pretty good idea of what's going on here. Jon Fitch is this very, very ravenous wrestler. He will go after, whatever the grip he needs, he'll go after it till he has it. You break it, he'll get it again. You break that again, he'll get that grip again. He'll take that grip and he'll advance that grip to some type of body lock, thigh, single leg by gripping the thigh close to his body, deep in on your hips into some double type entry. Any of these things, he will then go after that and drive after that. If you stop him, and he just has the grip still, then he'll go after that again. If you break the grip, he'll close the distance, grab the grip, that's what it means to be, what's the word that people will use? Tenacious. What are some other ones? Relentless, that's Mark on the microphone. Mark Manaharan. At Mark is on the air on Twitter, and at Mools 33 on Instagram. Relentless. What do we mean by relentless? We mean there are a number of steps he wants to do. Let's reverse engineer it. Jon Fitch wants to be on your back, smashing you up and continually trying to choke you. Or on top, but I think he'd prefer the back. To accomplish getting on the back, he needs to really be in a position of dominant control. Taking the back from mount or taking the back from a half guard position where he pressures you, whatever. To get that, he's got to stabilize a position on the ground with you. To get that, he's got to take you from your feet to the ground and talk you out of getting back up. To accomplish that, he's got to initiate some chain of wrestling that will result in you being on the ground. To do that, he's got to get a really solid grip on you in balance. And to do that, he's got to grab you. And to do that, he's got to close the distance. So we've reverse engineered Jon Fitch's goal, be on your back trying to choke you, all the way out to Jon Fitch in space. To be relentless, as Jon Fitch is to initiate those steps in sequence over and over and over again without being discouraged. Right? We love these guys. Everything I just said about Jon Fitch, you could remove Jon Fitch's name and just plop Ben Askren's name in there. Right, Mark? Really? Will the approaches be different? Sure. Will they chain together some of their favorite approaches, some of their favorite tactics, some of their favorite small victories? Will they chain them different? Of course they will. They're very different artists. But also, you could put in very early Josh Barnett as well. Fucking Josh Barnett. Over and over and over again. Close the distance, get Ronda Rousey. We could put Ronda Rousey in there early in her first 10 fights. Close the distance, get a grip. Get a grip to a better grip, to a body lock, to a leg, to something. Tear you to the ground. Control, force you to not get up. Control you, advance your position, and attack something.
Damian Maia,
right? Lots of these guys, and it's beautiful. It's fucking beautiful. It's beautiful because each one of these steps, this is the thing. I'll go back to, I remember I grew up training martial arts all my life, and I really became interested in jiu-jitsu, especially when I knew I would fight. I knew I was going to fight in a cage before I'd ever taken a jiu-jitsu class, so I knew how serious I had to take it. And I remember they would teach you, all right, and from here, you're going to break the guard like this. Once you do that, you're going to pass the guard like this, and then you're going to settle into side control. And it just didn't work. And I was like, but I'm doing the thing. And I practiced it and I trained it and I'm doing the thing and I can't do it. Or eventually I would break the guard, but then I couldn't pass the guard. I'm doing it right. I know I'm doing it right. I'll train it 100 times more. What I didn't understand and what we don't understand at first is each of these things and each of the micro ingredients of these things is a fight. It's a fucking fight. Think of judo or real life. If Mark's wearing a sweatshirt right now, just Mark, zip your shirt down. So Mark zipped his shirt down to about here. I want to grab the inside of his shirt. It's judo or any scenario in which I grab him. That is my goal. Why? Because I want to throw him on the ground. To throw him on the ground, first thing I'm going to take that inside collar. What are you going to do if I take your inside collar? He's going to try to break my grip. And what's happening right there? It's a battle. That's a battle I have to win. Now I want to pull on that. And he's fighting a battle of not letting me. And I want to get an underhook. So I get an underhook. What's he going to do? He's going to move his hips away. And now there's a battle. That's the thing we need to understand when we're studying fighting, and if we're trying to understand what we're seeing, every inch is a battle. Every position is a battle. I want my hip out. So we push a guy against the fence, and I'm trying to take Mark down, and he turns his... Am I still centered-ish?
Yeah.
So if I drive in on his hips and I drive him against the fence, what do we want him to do? He's going to take one of the initial responses. He's going to take my arm, and he's going to drive his hips sideways. Can you more or less see? My hips are sideways. You see this against the fence all the time. Mm-hmm. They're going to try to fucking turn me back. Just that. People are like, well, our response might be, well, why doesn't he stop this? Or he's supposed to do that. He knows what he's supposed to do. But the other guy's just not going to play along. Once you think of it that way, the shit Jon Fitch or Ben Askren or any of these guys do is all the more amazing. Because it's not just Jon Fitch or Ben Askren has decided, oh, he's close to the distance, he's got the takedown, whatever. You're trying to stop him, and I know this sounds intuitive, but it isn't just trying to stop the takedown. It's trying to stop the grip to the position, to the hand, to where it holds, to every little thing I know he wants, and I don't want him to do it. Or I want to do something else, and he has to overcome it. That's what it is to be completely driven to get it and obsessed to get it. And that's Jon Fitch. At least it has been. Because we can say that's Jon Fitch, but I don't know. I don't know what the fuck Jon Fitch is doing right now. Training. He's training right now. AKA, is that where he is?
Yep.
Yeah, he's there right now. Maybe all he's been doing, maybe he's been doing it for years, is just working on some sick-ass, jab, uppercut, step, knee combo that he fucking kills everybody with in the gym. He's just been saving it. Been saving it for years. I've got a Phil Davis breakdown I'm working on right now. He's got this head kick, tries it a couple times in round one, but he's waiting until he's laid enough obvious, showing his shoulder until you're expecting this means shoulder, and then all of a sudden the kick pops up. That's within the fight you can set a trap. Some of these motherfuckers set them for years. I don't have it here. It's in my other bookshelf. BJ Penn. I forget what his book is called. He's got a couple books. Why I Fight, great book. But he's also got one that is techniques, fighting techniques. And it's, clip after clip, sequence after sequence laid out. And in it, his book, he says, never throw head kicks. It might have even been never throw kicks, or maybe it's only low kicks. But I have the feeling BJ just didn't kick. I mean, you don't remember BJ kicking much. He certainly didn't kick much. For sure, he said, don't throw head kicks. You shouldn't throw them in fighting. He fucking wrote a book to lie to you about that. Because the day Diego Sanchez got kicked in the head, you know what he was sure fucking BJ was not going to do? Kick him in the head. BJ never thrown a head kick in a fight, and he wrote a book in which he said, don't ever throw head kicks. That's, for years he was telling that lie just to set that up. And that's true. These guys are like that. Fucking Jon Fitch could have the meanest ass flying knee you've ever seen in your life, and he's been hiding it. And that's why we can't say, this guy tends to do this. Whenever you hear somebody say that, just fucking know that they're bullshitting. None of us are fixed things. None of us, if we have a growth mentality instead of a fixed mentality, we change constantly. People who say Jon Fitch is this, or Holly Holm tends to do this, or whenever she's pressured, this fighter always does this, those are people who live with a fixed mentality of themselves, right? Because why? If you knew you could change with effort and knowledge and education, which all of us do, why wouldn't you think fucking Jon Fitch can? Right, Mark?
Look at Khalil Rountree most recent performance. He looks like a completely different fighter.
Completely different fighter.
In his stance.
And if somebody years ago, people would have said, oh, this man always does this, and when he's not great at this and very skilled in this area. It's bullshit. It's bullshit. But we have a pretty big sample size of Jon Fitch. And in that sample size, he has often done this. However, do not be surprised if he's completely different.
And to a lesser extent, his opponent, Rory, when he was facing Wonder Boy, nobody expected him to do the rolling leg lock.
Yeah, over and over.
Over and over.
Now, if it worked, Rory would have been a fucking genius.
Right, but he was using that essentially as a way to close distance.
Yeah, to enter. Yeah,
right?
to enter.
And Wonder Boy was not preparing that to be used as to enter.
No.
So
yeah. So
good work.
From me to the camera, That's a long way. In that time, Wonder Boy's going to punch and kick me in the head a lot. What if I just fucking zoom in underneath, enter to the leg, and then drag him to the... It was a pretty good idea. But when it failed once or twice, it was going to fail. It was going to get harder and harder as it went on. But yeah, you don't know. Having said all that, we have a sense of what a Jon Fitch is, you know? But what, were you going to give another example?
Well, not really an example. I was just going to add on to that because... of that rolling leg lock and Jon Fitch's loss to Rousimar Palhares, I have a feeling that he might be preparing for that.
Yes, yeah. Jon Fitch, Palhares is a whole other thing. Google Paul Harris, man. But that's a whole other thing for another day. But so we know what Jon Fitch has done, and we can infer that that is something we certainly should be ready for. Doesn't mean he's only going to do that. Jon Fitch might land the biggest shot you've ever seen. Biggest punch from some weird angle, spinning elbow. You got to be ready for these things. However, if you've watched Jon Fitch, your expectations are thus that this is what he'll look to do. Now, you'll go all the way back to how George St. Pierre fought Jon Fitch, and that was, how do we stop Ronda, Jon Fitch, Ben Askren, any of these people? Well, we don't stop them when they're on our back. And it sucks if we have to stop them when they're controlling us on the ground. It really sucks if we have to try to defend a deep takedown, stop their ability to take us to the ground right mid takedown. No, the best idea is to keep them outside and punch them, jab them, use long distance weaponry. Rory uses that front kick really well, and there's not a simple answer to catch it and take him down. It's very risky. You haven't seen a lot of people take down for us and TriStar's people off of kicks ever. It's just, I seem to recall one of Faraz's guys, it's 100 and it was against a Brazilian. Well, that's great. A French guy against a Brazilian. Great work, Robin. Somebody who recently fought in Bellator. Anyways, you've seen, if people catch their kicks, they lay them out. Man. God, it's going to kill me, but I'll circle back to it. I'll get it back. I have an issue with names sometimes. Eric Silva. It was Eric Silva was knocked out by Nordine Taleb. We did it. We fucking did it. And I seem to recall Eric caught Nordine's kick. Yeah. As I recall, and Nordine drilled him. You don't fucking catch these guys' kicks. They want you to. They're inviting you to. And it's a sidebar. Once upon... Only fucking 3 years ago, people were like, you don't kick a wrestler. Bullshit, you don't kick a wrestler. We don't limit ourselves, right? So, yeah, use that front kick. I've used this analogy many times. If we were playing poker in a Western, I flip this table over and you guys go back and I start shooting as we fucking clear this space. That's how Rory uses that front kick. Similar. Flipping table, kick and leg. It's a very similar concept. It's interesting. This is the kind of shit that interests me. So... logistically, we're like, that's the fight. That's what the fight should look like. That's how you fight this guy. And then our extrapolation next would be if Jon Fitch can get it to the ground, he'll have some advantages. Not necessarily true. Or if Rory can keep it at distance, he'll have some advantages. Again, you don't know what Fitch has been working on. Keep it in his back pocket for a long time. So that's not always the case. But these days, those simple concepts that we examine and we can discuss, are where kind of the weaknesses lie, because it is about so many other things than that. And one of those big things is sort of motivation and intensity and focus. Rory, against Mousasi, by his own admission, he didn't perform. He couldn't get the best out of himself. Now, bear in mind, this is somebody who's just, super intense throughout his career up until that point. That's an issue. So what would you do if you were his coach? Now, I just talked to Faraz last week, and it hit him suddenly, hey, wait a second, I think Jon Fitch had failed a drug test, and he kind of went off. And you can see it. It's on Twitter. It's not hard to find. Faraz talking about how Jon Fitch is a cheater and a coward, and actually some of what you didn't see in that. And it'll be up on the DAZN platform, the whole interview. Faraz says, I would say that to his face. And my my natural answer while kind of engaged in a conversation like that was, what do you think he would say if you said that to his face? And he said, I'm prepared for whatever the consequences of my actions. I would say that to his face, and I will be prepared for his response. It's like, whoa, fuck. It's heavy. And I thought about it a lot after. It's like, is for us just getting emotional? He's pretty in control of his emotions. He allowed himself to say that, I think. And why would that be? And it occurs to me that when Rory's mad or angry or dislikes you somehow, maybe that's a key element to that, warrior on the fucking battlefield, Rory MacDonald. And maybe there's that element there that Faraz wants to make sure that all of this stuff is allowed. Rory's allowed to see and feel all of this stuff. Because a motivated Rory is, I want to draw blood from you, Rory. Going out there to perform and win a contest, Rory, is not the best Rory. It's never been the best Rory. It really hasn't. You know?
Especially when it's a Grand Prix matchup. It's not the finals. It's kind of like when you relate it to other professional sports, like a championship team like the Golden State Warriors, they don't truly take the regular season seriously until it's playoff time, when it's time to perform finals, when it's truly on the line. So
it's true.
He may be looking past him. And
I wonder if that's why, Rory's career has been a very interesting one. Just the new breed, everybody would say, anybody in the know was aware this guy was fighting at 16 years old and what he was becoming, and sort of this new thing where it isn't some athlete performing moves. It's a holistic nature. Being a martial artist and a combat sportsman and a warrior is a holistic part of who you are. That's Rory MacDonald, and skilled in different ways, and understands the game in different ways, and sees the game in different ways. And then, to kind of be at a point now where he's had that fight of a lifetime with Robbie Lawler. And how much of him was left there? And that's not something you say carelessly. It's not something I say carelessly at all. It's like, he's still human. I mean, go back and watch that fight. Go back and watch it. Watch some of what he put himself through. And he did it out of, joy for the moment. And that's beautiful. And he'll have that forever. But then after that, there's Wonder Boy, and then there's some surgeries on the nose, and then there's a sort of a very workmanlike victory over Paul, and then there's Mousasi, and then the Lima fight was one where he went through things.
Yeah, the Lima was before Mousasi.
Yeah, Lima before Mousasi. The Lima fight, he went through a lot, and so that's quite amazing. But he didn't go in there like with that, brutal Game of Thrones kind of like.
It was. It wasn't like the Rory we saw that fought Tarek Safadine.
Yeah.
That
like, just this animal.
A different vibe.
Yeah, and a lot of these things, savage animal, like my guy, our guy innovated those words. But what are we really saying? Like, we feel Joe say, "Oh, dude, the guy's a savage." And we know, we can hear it in Joe's voice, what he's seeing. He's seen tens of thousands of martial artists, but this one's different. We hear it in his voice. But what are we saying? It's primal. Is Rory that now? But what if he hates this guy? What if this guy's a cheater and a coward? It's all at play. It's all at play. But I'm super stoked. I'm going to be cover if you at Robin Black MMA on Twitter and Instagram. I'll be covering all week long from there. I also want to mention Alima Leigh McFarlane. She is the Bellator flyweight champion, Hawaiian, badass. Really cool jiu-jitsu. I got a couple of breakdowns out. One out right now, and one will be out by the time this is out, of a sort of a twin armbar. I don't know, I haven't looked close enough to see which arm actually is hyperextended, but it feels like it's both. One looked this way, and the other one looked sideways, like a hyperextension sideways, while in kind of a dead orchard triangle. It's fucking cool. So check out Alima Leigh McFarlane, ILEIMA-LEI. If you go to my Instagram and Twitter, you'll see those breakdowns. She's someone to watch. Fighting this girl, Veda Ortega, who's also really talented submission player, really mentally strong. These holistic aspects of what these fights are is part of what makes them great. But please hang with me as I go to San Jose for this one. And very interested to see, again, the fight itself, fascinating. 2 real veterans, 2 real names, 2 guys who have been, everywhere you're going to go. But I want to see where they're at. And I did mention this off the top that Faraz was, when I said there's clips of Faraz, he keeps talking about Fitch being a drug user, being a cheater, being... What fell, Mark? I think the gloves fell. And we'll leave that in there, just so you can see my surprised face. If you heard that on the podcast, something fell. It is my belt and some gloves, and there's probably something else. But hey, man, you gotta live. You gotta move with what's happening. And we will go and rewind and look at what fell and how and why it fell and what happened in my goofy face. But yeah, stoked to see this. Interested about and a last note on Faraz's comments. He talks about how what makes this so extreme is that we're not hitting balls, with bats here. We're hitting humans with our fists, lit by our bodies and controlled by our minds. And once you apply performance-enhancing drugs to that, that's what got him so worked up. At least that's what he was saying at the time. And that's a conversation for another day, something we've got to dig into. I've been trying to figure out how to truly and in a fair way, in an unbiased, non-judgmental way, to examine performance-enhancing drugs and as they apply to martial combat. It's been very difficult. It's been very difficult because I'm trying over time more and more to take my opinion out and try to reveal information or try to, uncover some truths. And it's very difficult to discuss that without opinion and judgment. And so I'm continuing to work on it and hopefully, maybe with a little bit of science and maybe the right guest might be part of it to really dig in properly. Because if all I'm going to say is this is really dangerous, it makes people sick, it's dangerous to other people, young fighters shouldn't use it, it'll harm their systems afterwards, cheating, fair, unfair, history, how people had to use it. If I just go into all that stuff, you can hear that anywhere. I want to try to find something that's more meaningful, that teaches us or that we learn something if possible. But so that's it. Watch the rest of the podcast or hang in with me now. If you enjoyed my chat on Rory MacDonald and John Fitch and Bellator 220, then check out the rest of the podcast. The rest of you, hang tight. By the way, I'm going to take a break and put back my shit that fell down. 1 sec. We'll be right back. All right, we're back. That was fast. I put the belt back. If you're listening on the podcast, thanks for hanging in. Chapter 2 of our chat today. We're still going to talk about Jon Jones, but I think it's just time to chat a little bit about Conor McGregor. McGregor is a fascinating individual. I don't have extra behind-the-scenes details on if he really punched a guy out in a bar in Ireland. I don't know what the guy did, who he threw his phone on the ground. I don't know how much truth there is in accusations that are happening where he hasn't even been named in something, but maybe it is him. I don't know. The New York Times named him in very serious and gross things. I don't know about any of these things. What I want to talk about is the martial artist and how these things, such as we understand them, if at all, connect to that. So people ask about Conor McGregor a lot, as you would expect. He's super famous, very unique, very interesting as a human being. And people ask questions like, what's going on with this guy? Will he win again? Will he fight again? Who should he fight? All these things. My thoughts are about what he is right now. What Conor McGregor is right now. And when I go back, I look at his own words when he was at his best. Now, let's pause for a moment. And what was Conor McGregor at his best? Well, the outcome of Conor McGregor, the consequences, the results of Conor McGregor at his best was knocking out Jose Aldo in 13 seconds, dismantling Eddie Alvarez in, I think it was Madison Square Garden. I was there.
Yep.
It's hard to remember sometimes Madison Square Garden, Vegas. Like, once you're in the arena watching the fights, and I'm just just zoned right into it, it's hard to remember. But yes, you're Madison Square Garden, and that was the greatest performance, one of the greatest performances in a title fight ever. Just for a sheer one man's performance, not the fight itself, not the back and forth, not the exciting, nothing, just one human being's performance. Unbelievable. Then what else was Conor McGregor capable of? Then he was capable of, when he was at his best, creating hype, excitement, getting people talking, making people pause from their lives to excitedly or angrily or whatever. This is powerful shit. To get us to all stop and either go, wow, this guy's amazing, or oh my God, I hate this guy, but all of us watch it. Millions of people needing to know what this guy would do and what the outcomes of these things. It's unreal.
When you become pop culture.
He is pop culture. Beyonce, Conor McGregor, same level. Pop culture wise, same level. So all of that was this man. These were the consequences and outcome and result of this man at his best. And that's important, I think, to say. Because when credited with it, and people say you're the best or you're great or you're amazing or whatever, Conor McGregor himself would say, I am not, and I'm paraphrasing, although some of these things he said to me in interviews and when I've spoken to him, I am not amazing or I am not special. I am obsessed, and this is the result of single-minded obsession and hard work. He said that many times. John Kavanagh, his coach, said it many times, and many philosophers wiser than I have said that many times. And those people who live a good life, whose lives have some amount of meaning and success doing the things that they love, they'll all tell you exactly the same things. They are not very fucking special. The gift, there's some luck involved, and amongst that luck is being born in an environment or a situation or with a coach or a parent or whatever it is to teach you some type of ungodly work ethic. And then you work your fucking brains out harder than you can imagine, mostly out of passion, because nobody's going to work really hard at shit they hate. Nobody. Sometimes you will work hard at shit you hate for something. So maybe you love money or you love something, and so you'll just you'll grind, as they say, for that. But for the most part, obsession, love, passion, insane hard work, and this is maybe the key when we look at Conor McGregor here. Single-mindedness. Okay? What does it mean to be single-minded? Well, quite simply, I mean, we could look it up, but I would say that of the two words in there, single, there's only one thing on your mind, right? And obsessed, we use that word a lot, but just nothing fucking exists but that. And I can relate to that. I am not truly single-minded because I am married and have a dog and have a couple of friends and have some family and have a few other things. But 90% of my life is dedicated to what I do. I am single. I'm as single-minded as you can get. What it means to be single-minded is when I order dinner tonight and I get some interesting plate, something about that plate will connect to how I'm going to look at a fight, how I'm going to break down the next fight, how I'm going to understand training, how I'm going to think about doing this, all of that. It'll be in my food. It'll be in my conversation. It'll be in a recorded phone call from a fake guy saying, we are the Canada Revenue Service, please click a button. And I'll be like, something about that is trying to trick me into a way that if I paw as you jab, that's what it is. It isn't like you just only do. It's the power of single-mindedness is you're learning on learning on learning. Because by doing something all the time, it becomes part of your skin. And when it is, then you can think about things in a new way and you get new information in a way other people aren't exposed to it because they're not marinating in it. They're marinating in it. That's what it is. It isn't just, I train 20 hours a week and the other guys train 10, although that would be great if you can do it with health. What it is as you are sitting around and reading about a basketball player, what is it about their training? And as you see some great piano player, what is it about their performance? And as you meet somebody who is incredibly focused on their children, you say, what is it about their focus? And your whole life starts to revolve around the act of constant improvement. And none of us do that as well as we could, but we all can improve in doing that. And as we do, we get better at it. And as we get better at it, we get better at learning ideas from something. You know, how the light casts a shadow on something will tell you about the way you could light up a breakdown if that's what you do for a living. And the way that a chair moves, you might lean on a chair in such a way and say, hey, as I put my weight into my calf, like ongoing all the time. That's who Conor McGregor was. He said it himself. Very quickly, just suck that in, and then let's not talk about the in-between. Let's compare it to Conor McGregor right now. Okay, are you with me? First of all, do you accept the idea that all day, every day, nothing, it was training, but it was also every book you read, every show you watched on TV, everything you read on the internet, every conversation you had was an act of learning to improve yourself for the purpose of performance, your body, control of your body, control of your mind, ability to ask for, et cetera, et cetera. Single-mindedness, true single-mindedness. His own words, that's how he lived his life. People around him, I know plenty, they said that's how he lived. Obsessed. Okay? Not just a saying, but an action, a way of life. Now, you cannot be single-minded when you also run multiple businesses, when you also travel to sell whiskey, when you also are paying running a website and paying a staff, and now you have a family, and that's okay. We all have families, and we shouldn't be bad sons or brothers or fathers especially, and you don't have to be, because what you start to be is single-minded and then present with your family. So when you're with them, you're single-minded, and that's what these greats learn, is full, true presence. You're a father to your son right now, and nothing else exists. But when you're in the gym, or you're training, or you're learning, or you're doing your mental training, or you're reading, or whatever, and you start to be able to truly be present wherever you are. Because as life goes on, there will be these unavoidable ones. Now you have a child, that's going to be a part of your life. But you don't have to start other businesses. You don't have to go to parties. You don't have to care what other people think. You don't have to manage businesses. You could still be a single-minded martial artist your whole life. Okay, so let's just try to side by side Conor McGregor, the brilliant, single-minded, obsessed martial artist who, and trust me, this is what I do all day, every day. This and others like me who do it. I've had conversations with them that live their entire lives in martial arts. That one, at that time, in that state, was one of the most special martial artists the world has ever known. Okay? And again, this isn't fucking that idiot who said McGruber could beat fucking Mayweather saying that. That is me gathering the opinion of many dozens of martial arts coaches and experts and specialists and et cetera, and talking to them all, and they're like, in that moment, you've never seen a greater martial artist. And what do we mean by that? It's hard for somebody who, just pops up and watches a fight now and again to know what that means. Like, well, he didn't kick as high as this guy, or he wasn't as good a grappler as that guy. That's not the point. The point is about being able to, in that moment, perform to perfection. Doesn't matter what kick you use or what punch you throw. To be able to perform in such a way that you can beat anybody in that time, that is what it is to be that special of a martial artist. And that's what that man was. Could be again. But currently, if you asked him, how is your training? Well, yeah, I'm getting some good work in. How is your focus? When's the last time you've done reading about, shaping the realities of a fight? When's the last time you've done reading about the mental battle that's happening? When's the last time you've spent that time reading about the philosophy of warlords like you did that? And really sit down and inventory your behavior and your preparation. Who are you right now? We can all do this all the time, because sometimes we've been better than we are now. And sometimes we've been a lot worse than we are right now. We have. But if we have self-awareness and the ability to study ourselves, we'll say, well, we're eating pretty good. We're going to the gym, not bad. We're working really hard. We're being kind. We've learned, what have we learned lately? You start writing that down. Okay, well, I read a book about this. Yeah, I did understand that in a different way. And you start looking at it. If you're doing that kind of work, and McGregor journaled a lot during that time, I can tell you that I was going to say for a fact. I can't tell you that for a fact because I wasn't sitting with him. But I can tell you that man was journaling his progress, his goals, what he was doing differently, where he improved. Because if you write it down, I used to be able to do this many of. It's not usually this simple. It's much more subtle. But this many kicks on the bag at the end of training in my 10 minutes. Now I did this many. It's usually much more subtle and sophisticated than that. But you journal those things, and then you compare. What did I do now? Well, I've been drinking whiskey the last 4 nights of the week. I've been out till 3 o'clock in the morning. I did maybe some types of drugs that I didn't used to do. I only got in a couple trainings. How were they? Not bad. This is not a single. So when people say, well, what happened to this guy? Or could this guy beat this person? Or who's going to win with these fights? This is what matters. It's also like, are you going to get the job or not? Or will that girl like you on the date or not? This is what matters. Nothing else matters. Who are you right now? And who you are is a result of the actions and preparations you've taken. You've been eating shit all the time? You've been sleeping not much? This is who you are. This is how you'll function. And that's true of fucking fighters too. And often, and I know plenty, I had a conversation this week with a top 5 fighter who is, within the last 4 months fought in one of the great fights. And they're like, you wouldn't believe how little this guy works in between fights. And I'm like, holy fuck, are you serious? I've been in gyms in the last few weeks with people fighting in the next few months. And they're like, yeah, he just hasn't been showing up. They're human beings. When you ever skip work? Fucking, of course you have, because you're human. So do these guys. There's what is there, 460 of them in the UFC, 250 in Bellator, 201 championship, another 100 in PFL, 150. What do we got? I don't know. They didn't add them up. 700? I mean, 70 of them are lazy, And another 140 of them are kind of motivated. And some of them are, holy shit, you're top 5 and yet your work ethic. This is who we all are. This is everything. There's almost nothing you can control but your preparation. Like, I can't control if that guy will hire me. I can control whether or not I'm going to be rested, smart, focused, prepared for the interview or the audition or whatever. I can't control him because who the fuck knows what he did last night? Maybe he was out doing blow with hookers and now he's mad. I can't control him. I don't know what he's going to do. I can control my own preparation. And if you compare, and I don't have the full information, only what we're seeing. All I can say is, that Conor McGregor who fucking was in those moments, Conor McGregor isn't anything special. Neither is Robin Black or fucking Dana White or, Beyonce or anyone. What you are is a result of your preparation and what you're doing. And so in that moment, Conor McGregor, that one whose cells were there, prepared in that way, was one of the most magical martial artists we've ever seen. Conor McGregor right now, I don't know what he's doing, but that one didn't have multiple businesses, children, money, fame, fucking, famous friends and big parties and any of those things. That guy had nothing but go train and become the best martial artist in the world. Not even the same guy. And this ain't picking on Conor McGregor. I fucking love Conor McGregor. I hope I see that again. This is one of the great experiences of my life studying that. One of the great, great experiences for somebody who does what I do and lives how I live. I hope I see that again. And if I see almost that, I want the chance to talk to him about the journey through it. But it's true of all of them. It's true of all of them. It's true of everyone. It's true of you. It's true of me. That's what it is. And so once we understand that, there's so much we can get out of this. It's like, well, who's better, Dustin or Max? Well, where are they at? And if we all of a sudden, remember this one injured? If I can blew my knee out, I'm still going to win. Or I didn't prepare for Chad Mendes, I'm going to win. That's what that one was. This one, I don't know what it is, but it ain't the same thing right now. And that's true of all of us. It's true of everything we look at. It's true of everyone we know. It's true of everyone that's ever lived. And that's a great thing. Don't be scared of that. That means whatever you're doing right now, you can be a little greater tomorrow if you put the effort into it. Whatever McGregor is doing right now, he can be a little greater tomorrow, work his way back up to this thing because he's achieved it before. Maybe he can achieve it even more. All the lessons and the life experience now can even be more powerful. You can become even more single-minded as you've exhausted the rest of the world and you realize it kind of sucks and life was a lot better when you were single-minded. Now you gather all the information from that you have experienced and apply it to that. This is everything. This is everyone. Forever. It's cool. It's cool. It's a good thing. You know? So what will become of Conor McGregor? Whatever fucking he puts into it, he's going to get out of it. Just like all of us. Whatever you put into it, you're going to get out of it. Want to get a little better at something? Practice that thing a lot. You want to do a little less of something? Slowly change your thinking so you do that less, or add your thinking so you do another thing more. We got a lot of control over who we are and what we are. And right now, in appearance, he's not the same guy. He's the same name, same face, but even all of your cells renew each other. So he's literally physically not even the same guy as he was then. And he will be something different again. And so will we all. But I hope he goes and he has a new chapter that's even more incredible. Because sometimes the greatest thing about having a dip is where you get to go after the dip.
I think the obsession, I mean, some could argue that it's always been like this, but the obsession is money. And look at it as if it is a striking discipline or just a martial arts discipline. Look at who he's spending his time with. He's spending his time with Robert Kraft and millionaires. He's training in that discipline.
Yeah, and maybe you're right.
So he's probably just obsessed with that and no longer obsessed with fighting.
Exactly. And when you said it's always been money, I don't think it was always money. I think money would have been one of the results of his obsession. But then once you had enough of it, you became obsessed with it itself. Money is a consequence of success. Money in and of itself is nothing to obsess over. Money is fucking nonsense, not even real. Like now, especially now, going to some fucking bank app, it's just numbers. It's not even a thing. It's not even a real thing. It can be exchanged for goods and services, some of which are real. But even in the early days, he wanted to be rich and have suits and all those things. Those were still consequences of being a great martial artist. But once, and let's say, and you know, you're a rapper and you want to sell 1 million records. Really, you want to be maybe you do want to sell 1 million records. But if we just slightly refocused you, what you really want to be is brilliant, great, make wonderful art. If we focus you on that, you'll probably sell as many records as possible if you're focused on greatness, and then those records will result in money. But the focus should be on the thing for the thing's sake. And at least at some point, he was being the greatest martial artist in the world was the focus. If your focus is to be the greatest podcaster or the greatest hard worker or the greatest dad ever, or all of the consequences that come from that, are beautiful results of doing the thing for the thing's own sake. Your why is about the thing. If your why is about the thing, all of the other stuff will fall into play, or can fall into play. It's all different too. To be the greatest poet in the world is to also be like, maybe money isn't important. So there are other elements that do weave into it. But to just be obsessed with money will leave everyone always empty, because money's not even a real thing.
And this is actually the wild card about it, because when I do say that, where his focus is on money, I think he's looking at money as the rankings, the scoreboard.
Yeah, exactly. And again, that's an improper.
Of course, yeah. But I think he just wants to be, the highest paid sportsman or something of that nature. Where
somewhere along, I think he got
the focus has shifted.
Yeah. He got that idea that if I sell more pay-per-views than you, that says something about me. Even though. And it's not improper. It's not wrong. It's his perspective. But you have the ability to shift your perspective so that true greatness is your goal. If you are truly great, you'll probably make more money anyways. These are subtleties, but it's true. What are we? And if you can get to the root of what the why is, greatness for greatness' sake is the most powerful. Being the richest or selling the most pay-per-views or breaking records, or, you become a millionaire and then you're not going to be happy till you have 10 million. Then you're not going to be happy till you have 100 million. Then you're not going to be happy till you have 1 billion. And then you meet all these billionaires and they're unhappy. Like, this is just nonsense. Like, you must creating something. Now, some of these people create life, and then their children give them fulfillment. And there are other things that we will create. but money has made no one happy ever. There are suicides in Silicon Valley happening weekly with people who have 10 million in the bank and they're running startups and don't have a purpose in life. Like, money will not make you happy, but it's handy. If you focus on being great and trying to be great and trying to create great things and trying to provide great things and trying to bring value and meaning to other people, there's a pretty good chance the world will take care of you. And that's not just mumbo jumbo.
Yeah, I mean, Michael Jordan's the best example of that. The money came, following the greatness was so undeniable that the money had to be undeniable as well.
And that is how most of them went up until, the 90s and beyond. Like, nobody was really out. Singers and basketball players and stuff weren't sitting there going, how do we get rich? They were being, how do we make great stuff?
Yeah,
and
in the NBA, there were no major lucrative contracts and things like that. It was just greatness.
Yeah, greatness was what they did, and it worked, right? And greatness for greatness' sake. Like, to live to the utmost reaches of your potential is what we're doing here. And so McGregor knew that. Slight shifts in how he views the world, possibly. This is conjecture. This is us, to a certain degree projecting. We see what we see. I can't say most of these things, how they've changed, how he sees the world. I haven't seen him in a long time. I saw him before he fought Khabib, and I didn't even have a chance to speak to him. So I don't have any particular insight into this. What I can tell you is it is impossible to be single-minded and obsessed when you have this many things going on. The nature of single-mindedness is single, right? So that is why you are where you are. But it's also something we realize comes with it. Khabib never had to sit with presidents of Chechnya. He never had to deal with haters, and he never had to deal with like all these distractions. He will not be dealing with whiskey. He's a religious man. He will not be dealing with whiskey or scenarios with women and these types of things. But he'll have his own challenges, and so will anyone who's great. And these are the things that got you to where you are not the same things that will get you to where you're going. So everyone will have to deal with it, and how you deal with it will unfold the next chapters of your life. And that's it for now. That's, I don't know where else we can go other than he's not that man, and he'll never be that man again, but he could be an even greater man, gathering in everything that he knows. Matt, one last thought that just hit me is we judge people. We think they are what they are. I'll tell you, if Colby Covington sat down next week in a single interview, he could explain how and why he saw this character as being something that would be interesting and fun and could work and would be hard but would be valuable to his career. And then explain to us the lessons that he learned and how hard it was sometimes and how scared he was sometimes and how painful it was and how lonely it was. And we'd all be like, holy shit, you're a different person. Of course he's a fucking different person. We're all different people. We all change. So, none of your behavior till this point dictates who you will be in the future. It can give us an idea. Certainly, if you don't do anything to change it, it will dictate. But you can take these things. We have the ability to change ourselves. And fucking Colby Covington could be a different guy a week from now. And I use him as an example because he's obviously playing a character. All he has to do is give us insight into the character, the true, honest, tell nothing but truth now. If he went nothing but truth, it'd be the opposite of what he's doing. Now it's just a performance. If instead it was only truth, it was scary, it was hard, it was painful, it was funny sometimes. Oh my God, when that guy threw that boomerang at me, like just be actually yourself. In an instant, we would be like, oh shit, oh right, that's not him. McGregor, same thing. I went through these events. He's been putting it on for a long time too. He turned into a character. McGregor was very honest. What was so interesting about him was how honest he was how true he was how non-filtered he was. And over time, he became a character of Conor McGregor. If instead he came out and he told the truth, how he felt, anxieties and fears, all the things we all feel, we'd all be, even his haters would be like, oh my God, I never saw this side of him. Of course not. He's a human being. You barely see any sides of him. He's a human being 24 hours a day, and you only see 6 minutes once a month, and a couple of tweets. That's not him. That's not the person.
Yeah, and the worst part is the public expects him to be this caricature that who he plays as, and I mean,
break their expectations, shatter them. But we'll be talking plenty about him. He's not going anywhere. Whether he fights again and whether he prepares to fight again, whether his life changes and keeps growing as a character, who knows what he's going to do. But I'm always going to be excited to watch and to study where he's at, for good or for not as good. While we're talking about greats, let's look at Jon Jones for a second here, shall we? Jon Jones, if you've been with us for the whole podcast, we talked about Conor McGregor. If you haven't, you can go back and find that Conor McGregor piece. Jon Jones, like Conor McGregor, is a human being, and human beings are complicated, and human beings are not the moments that you see of them. They're 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for weeks and months and years. They're a human, and humans are different all the time, and humans are very, very imperfect. And Jones fucks some things up and makes some bad choices and does some stupid shit. And yet, somehow, despite that, he is still the greatest fighter we've ever seen. How and why is that? Over time, as, I'm into probably close to 1,000 breakdowns now of slow, detailed analysis, as well as thousands and thousands of hours, 100,000, or many tens of thousands of hours of studying this stuff. You start to see it all holistically. It's, what is it about Jon Jones? Is it his length? Is it his kicks? Is it his wrestling? Fuck, it's all the stuff, right? Everything is all the stuff. Who are you? Why are you what you are? It's everything. How does it all blend? And it's the recipe, the stew. So Jon has a mean streak to him. He has a mean streak. You feel it. You feel it in the fights. He's going to crush you. He's going to break you. Now, where would that come from? Some of it could be, somewhat genetic, but for the most part, it's probably environmental. Something in the way he grew up. The neighborhood, the brothers that he has, two athlete brothers or more. Does he have two or three? Two that are pro athletes.
Yeah, I believe it's two that are pros.
Two pro athlete brothers. Maybe his family, maybe where he lived, maybe the way people treated him, maybe anything. Environmentally, that mean streak became a part of the way he performs. Some people are like that in performance and really kind in other ways. Jon's been kind sometimes, in my experience with him, and other times he's been kind of like, dark, but so that's a part of it. You take that away, and what is he? So now we've got a Jon Jones that's got the genetic physicality that he has, the athletic platform that he has, the wrestling that he has, but he doesn't have that mean streak. What is he? He's not fucking Jon Jones. It's all together. It's all holistic, doesn't have the same coaches. He's a completely different fighter. And I don't say that lightly. I don't say that dismissively. He could be a better fighter, but he's different in every way. Every way. Performs different, acts different. Maybe he got arrested or didn't, or, everything in your life changes. You make one change in there and everything changes. And it's true of these athletes. If he trained harder, something that a lot of people around him, people have said to me that, are in his gym and around him, that he doesn't train hard, maybe he wouldn't be as good. Maybe he needs that. Maybe it's a secret. Maybe it's one of his secrets. We don't know. Maybe it would, some of that primal nature would be out of him if he was training all the time. Maybe burn out. Maybe got injured. Maybe he wouldn't even be here. His fucking knee would have blown out because he trained, 8 more hours a week every week for a few months, and now his knee is gone. It's all of it. It's all of it. An analogy or a metaphor, whatever, or a cliche term that people have often used, perfect storm. It's a perfect storm, right? What does that mean? Well, the air pressure this way, the timing this, as the clouds and the rain and the fucking heat and the desert, and it creates the perfect storm. That's what he is. That's what he is. I think it's really important. I'm looking more and more into trying to find ways to get this across in 1 minute when I do my 1 minute breakdowns, or in 3 minutes when I do my chats on television for my job, is to continue to find ways to explain this holistic nature of it. His mindset, change the mindset of Jon Jones. Change, you change one thing, maybe you change everything. Change his law-breaking mentality. Yeah, he did drugs. He did cocaine. Shit, that's not a very good idea for an athlete, right? He ran away from a car crash. But those law-breaking natures, that rule-breaking, that I won't just accept the rules you've laid out for me. Take that away from him. All of a sudden, he's a different guy. The way he fucking looks at his training, the way he looks at instruction from coaches. When Greg or anybody else says to him, Jon, I want you to take this position and do it like this, in the back of his mind, he's like, fuck, why don't I try it like this? That's important. That's part of what he is, right? It's part of what he is. Like, if you got a by the book, like follow the rules, Jon Jones, who doesn't give the finger to, authority sometimes, or doesn't question things, you don't have Jon Jones. All of it, right? All of it. Don't you find it's harder to really, really, truly be able to say what's going on with a lot of these guys? Somebody's like, why is Jon Jones so great? Well, it's his reach. Why he's so creative. He hits so hard. He's got a mean streak. These things are all true, but it's all of them. Tell me one reason Jon Jones is the best. Fuck, get the fuck out of here. Impossible, right? Impossible. The more you think about it, the more you think about these things, the more you see it's all connected. It's also really valuable. Why are you the way you are? Oh, you broke up with that girlfriend in high school? Are you happy? Okay, good, because who knows where that would have gone? Now you'd have 4 kids with somebody, somebody, who knows? You're living in a different place. Everything is different. This is life. Jon Jones, he decides not to go to Albuquerque that day, and he's still training in Vegas or wherever he was at the time. Everything's different. Everything, all of it. It's all connected. Because why? Because what Jon Jones and every one of these guys is this is an extension of who they are, right? They're not just people out there training low kicks, or drilling takedowns. At the point where they are this free, especially John or Demetrius, this free to express themselves and physically and emotionally innovate moments, it's about what they are. Izzy and Calvin, was it about that head kick or about that high elbow guillotine? Yeah, kinda. But if we remove that head kick, it's still a pretty fucking, take the head kick. And I say because people, one of the things that I do, and one of the things people that follow my work know me for, is I break down moments. Robin, can you break down that head kick? Well, I can't, because the UFC doesn't let you use their footage. But that aside, sure I can. Sure I can. I'd love to. It's fucking cool. The way he sets that head kick up, the way he lands it, why is he staggered? But really, what's really happening? Well, whatever happens in round 1, if that doesn't unfold, he's not hurt, he's moving quicker, that head kick doesn't land. It's all part of the same thing. It's all part of the same flow of everything. As is this. Fucking Mark, if he ate something like yesterday and he's got diarrhea, we're not here. And this idea isn't sharing. And if it's something that in some way shaped something that you saw tomorrow different and you didn't get it, everything is everything. It's all fucking connected. It's all coming together. It's all brought into that same thing. What was really Izzy and Calvin about? It was a fucking 25-minute adventure. That's what it was about. Was it about distance management? You know what I mean? Don't we feel ridiculous when we say that, when we really think about it? Was it about, fucking cardio? Like, think about it. It was a fucking lifetime of preparation to that moment, so those two could have that experience and push each other in those ways. They've changed forever. So that's the holistic nature of what Jon Jones is, too. He's everything. That every moment of his life, every moment of every person that's ever met him's life. And so are you, for that matter. And so am I. Right? Now that guy, so we've talked about Jon Jones. He's fighting a guy named Santos. What's his first name? Thiago Santos. He's got no H in it. And no disrespect. Thiago Santos could be the light heavyweight champion of the world in a few weeks. When is this fight? It's in June? I don't know, May or June. I think it's June. Thiago Santos could be the light heavyweight champion of the world in June. So if he was, so Mark's looking up the date. Thiago Santos, fight's over. Thiago Santos' hand is in the air. He's crying. He's thanking God, and there's Brazilian fans, and Dana White is putting a belt around his waist. July. Oh, it's that fight week? Yes, it
July
is fight week.
239.
Yeah, so we're way out early. That's okay. It's okay. We don't promote fights. We talk about fights. It's not our job. Something interesting's happening, we talk about it. That's what we do. So Thiago Santos, his hand is raised. He's crying. He's thanking Jesus. He's thanking his Brazilian fans. He's thanking everybody. He's thanking Dana White. And then and they putting the belt around his waist. And that Sunday in July, we all wake up and it's in whatever MMA site you fucking click on. Thiago Santos shocks the world. What would have had to happen? Okay. So what we're starting with is, so most of us, even if you say Thiago Santos by knockout round 1 and you're right, you'd be like, see, I knew it. No, you didn't. No, but nobody knows. Nobody knows. But we're starting as if that happened. Let's list what scenarios could have possibly taken place for Thiago Santos to be the light heavyweight champion of the world on that fine Sunday morning. Huge one-shot knockout in round 1 or 2. Okay, we all see that possibility. We know that that's not, a very large possibility, but that's irrelevant if it happens, right? Somebody said, odds makers say, well, it's a 1 in 10. Or somebody else says, all right, 1 in 100. Somebody's like, I don't know, man. I just got crazy power. 1 in 5. Doesn't matter what number we put on it. If it happens, that was the one, right? So one big shot, head kick, or, a big powerful, blitzing overhand right, or some kind of crazy spinning back, something, right? Big shot. We all see that, right? What else? How else? How else could we be waking up Sunday morning? 5-round decision. 5-round decision, he wins 3 or more of those rounds. Does anybody see that? Mark's shaking his head.
The only way would be through leg kicks, given his frame and whatnot. That would be the only way. I wouldn't say the only way, but that would be his best chance.
So here's where we start to enter what makes it even harder. So 5-round decision, we kick the shit out of Jon Jones's legs. Now, Mark is sitting there and he's like, fuck, one way that this guy could maybe do it is kick the legs. So do you think Greg Jackson is also thinking that? Do you think Jon Jones is actually thinking that? This is where that shit gets real, because it's kind of a big meta, all of it. It's could he do that? Yes. Would they be preparing for that for a long time? Because anybody shorter than Jon, that's an idea we might want to approach. We want to be kicking that leg. And then, for months now, everybody's been kicking. Oh, by the way, when we see spinning elbows and spinning kicks and all of that kind of stuff, people are wondering, spinning back fists, why are we seeing so much of that? It's because we've agreed to fight at a longer distance. We're fighting out at long distance. We're kicking the calf. Okay, we're going to stay all that, kick the calf, and then every now and again blitz, and then, or gradually come inside. As we kind of slide in, there's a lot of space there, and we've been dealing with all of these things, and all of a sudden something comes from another direction. So that will change, because as soon as everybody's spinning even more, we start to take that space away. What do you do if somebody's spinning? Fuck, I better jam that. I can go away, but if they throw something behind it, I'm going. Instead, I move towards them and I jam it. It's just, we've been fighting at a longer distance for quite a while because it's dangerous to get closer, even to wrestle. If I fail at any type of, lower body wrestling attack, you drive my face into the mat and you start beating the shit out of me. My face is down, your sternum is on the back of my head. That's bad for me. I tried to get you in a bad position, but by taking that risk to do it, I ended up in a bad position. So let's just not do that. So as a result, we stayed at distance. So this has been going on for a while, so it's maybe leg kicks. And in fact, if I'm Thiago Santos, people are like, how about we got to implement a leg kick heavy game? Well, they know that. Right? So is it possible? Sure, but it wouldn't be a surprise to them. So still possible. So that's one. Under what other scenario do we see Thiago Santos, a very, very solid fighter, defeating the light heavyweight champion, best fighter of all time in 5-round decision? And I'll tell you the most logical way, and that is just fucking having the night of his life. Right? That's how it happens. And if he did it and there was a key thing or two, we would have the tendency, because this is what we do, we look for answers. So we'd be like, oh, it was the kicking game. Okay? Or, oh, man, his jab. His fucking jab was so good that night. Or, let's say he was able to, for whatever reason, when no one else could, he could push through the heat, not take too much damage, and body lock Jon and put him against the fence and just hit him. I don't see that happening, but let's just say that happened. We'd be like, it was an unbelievable strategy of closing the distance and jamming his head under the chin of the taller man and slowly chipping away at his legs and his head until Jones was worn out, and then he could win rounds 4 and 5. I don't see that happening, but if any of those things happened, the real truth would be that man had something more on this night than any of us knew was possible, including him. Although, not necessarily him, because he could look in the mirror right now and be like, you don't know, I'm going to fucking beat Jon Jones. And he believes it. If he believes it and does it, he'd be like, holy fuck, like his belief would be a part of it. But under a scenario in which on Sunday morning, now, if even we go a step further, night of his life, some of the things he came prepared worked better than even they knew they would, because the other guys were prepared. And Jones has a slightly subpar performance. Doesn't need that to happen. You can have the greatest night of your life and defeat the best guy on his best night. It happens all the time. But what if he also on that night that I'm having the fucking night of my life, he doesn't. He fucking can't get going. Okay, well, now we're seeing it. And if that were to happen, would we then say, and I'm talking around it, because what else am I going to do, right? What else are we going to do? This is a fascinating fight for millions of reasons, but this guy's the best guy in the world. This is going to happen. If it does, he's going to crush this guy in one round. Yeah, we can say that. End of podcast. But let's explore. By exploring these possibilities, maybe it reveals some idea to us. And so, night of his life, other guy doesn't have a good night, then they would say, well, the real Jon Jones would defeat him. But that was the real Jon Jones. When you have a bad night, that's still you. That's you. And it's like you on your best day. That was your best that day. So this is what is at the root of everything. This is what was at the root of, it's why the preparation is everything. It's why, Dustin Poirier on the night was able to get the most out of himself, because he put himself in that situation where he could get the most out of himself that night. Different night might be different. It would be different for Max. Still win, maybe. Dustin could still win. He's a brilliant fighter. But it's about that. And that's what they'll all tell you. When they're not sitting at a very lit desk talking to people in suits. They'll tell you. It's about the night. And that's where it gets fucking scary. And, I would never undermine Henry Cejudo, but when he beat Demetrius, because remember, only a year earlier, he got fucking killed in round 1. What was different? Was it the game plan? Did he become faster or stronger in the meantime? That night, he was there. He was at his best. Was Demetrius? Maybe. If he was, he beat Demetrius on his best night. Demetrius would never make an excuse. But if we put those things together and you're not quite you today, and I'm the best me, these guys win. What's the most likely scenario on Sunday morning? What's the most likely scenario? Jon Jones. So now we go to Jon's perspective. Jon Jones wins and retains his light heavyweight belt, and everybody's like, oh yeah, we knew that would happen. Well, you're pretty sure that's going to happen, right? But what would be the key? So we're Jon Jones. You're now preparing Jon Jones. You're Greg Jackson's assistant. You're a strategist, and they're bringing you in, and you got to prepare Jon Jones. And they say, okay, well, what do we expect from? We know that this guy can be different on the night, but what do we expect from Santos? What have we seen so far that we can draw some information from? Well, he's a big hitter at 205 pounds. When he's, his weight, he's in balance and he's nicely positioned. He can generate a ton of force. If he hits us clean, we're in trouble. So priority 1. We're not in a position for this guy to hit us clean. That's priority 1 for like rounds 1 and 2. And 3, sure. Why not? We slowly never give this guy the clean shot. Remember, also, I'm going back, and I know I'm going to look at that fight that Elias Theodorou had with him, because I'm Jon Jones or I'm his coach. I'm like, we're fucking the best. Elias was really hard to hit. What did he do? How come he couldn't? If that guy couldn't hit him, we're going to make sure he can't hit us. That's for fucking sure. We're Jon Jones. Now, he did hit him, split his head in the third round, but Santos split Elias's head in the third round.
Did he? Or was that Cesar Ferreira?
Nope. It was Thiago Santos.
That was Thiago, okay.
Yeah. Elias Theodoro won a round from Thiago Santos.
Yeah.
And I was there. It was in Vegas.
I was thinking about that nasty gash that he got.
I was sitting next to his brother and his parents and his girlfriend. His girlfriend was pretty upset because he was cut. You know, his pretty face and all. But I'm going to look at, like, what did that guy do? Like, what was... I'll tell you, off topic, Elias is fighting in Ottawa. But off topic, nobody hits that guy. And you start to... his two losses are Thiago Santos and Brad Tavares, both decisions. And he won a round off both of those guys. Those are real guys. Yeah. Now, he's fighting, like a real top-level guy, Elias is. But he just did, too. Eric Andrews, Trevor Smith, Dan Kelly. Like, he's beat real guys. But he doesn't really get hit. Quickly, the reason he doesn't get hit, or a reason... One, he doesn't really know exactly what he's going to do next in a good way. Because if he doesn't know what he's going to do next, how the fuck are you going to predict it? And that sounds simple because on some level it is simple. He's not thinking in terms of I'll go there, I'll go there, I'll go there. He gets into a flow and into a sort of a anti-rhythmic type of flow. The other thing is, Jon will make you miss. And then he'll make you miss and he'll be in balance to fucking drill you. Elias will make you miss, and you'll miss even further because he'll put himself out of balance. Because if he doesn't hit you as much, he's okay with that. You know, he finds that to be an interesting style. He doesn't care if somebody doesn't get it or they don't like it. It doesn't bother him, right? And it shouldn't. It shouldn't bother you if you're a professional fighter. You're winning fights. The risk, of course, is that I don't know what those refs see, and if I only hit you 7 times and you hit me 6, I don't know. The refs might get... Or judges, they might fucking give it to the other guy. So that's a bit of an issue. But when you look at someone like that, he never gets hit. And part of the reason he gets hit even less than others is because he doesn't need to hit you back. He doesn't care if he does or not. He'll do it a little more than you in the round. And when he gets the chance, he'll put you against the fence and he'll beat you up there or take you down and he'll win. That's his goal. Well, shit, if any fighter is looking at that and it's like going, the main priority is make this guy miss, well, we'll be out of balance when he misses. We'll be in balance to move, but not in balance to strike, and we'll make him miss by even more. So there's a way to make guys miss. Again, to try to be as concise as possible. I'd prefer you to miss by a little bit, so I'm in a spot to counter you. But if I'm willing to give that up to make you miss by a lot, it's easy to do, right? Or not easy, but it's easier to do. So Jon Jones, our strategy would be, if it's all of us and we're working with him, our strategy would be, make this guy miss for a bit, frustrate him. When he slows down slightly, piece him up at distance for a while. When he gets overly aggressive, move into the body, throw him down on his back and cave in his face with elbows, or put him against the fence and bust up his body until we throw him down and cave in his face with elbows. If he doesn't get aggressive, we'll just piece him up at distance, and if he does, we'll take him down. Right? That's our plan. And Jones, under a scenario where maybe he loses at some point, and probably won't, but of course there's a scenario in which he can. At some point, Jones can be like, I'm bored of this, because his personality is a big part of it. Your emotion and your personality and your fundamental root of who you are as an individual. Jones can be like, I'm bored of this. This guy can't fucking touch me. I'm going to just finish him. Well, in some of those cases with a guy like that, we can get hit all of a sudden. Somebody would say it was a lucky punch when we're unconscious and Thiago Santos is the 205-pound champion of the world. But it wasn't a lucky punch. It was the dynamic of the situation created by my choices and his, and there it is. There is no lucky punch. There's no lucky punch. There's a dynamic that happens because of the actions of the two of us, led by every moment that has come before it. And that happens, right? Again, the most likely scenario, Jones pieces him up, makes sure he doesn't hit him very much, lets him get tired, he gets over-aggressive, takes him down, or he doesn't get over-aggressive like Anthony Smith didn't, and then he pieces him up at distance. Most likely scenario. But why examine it in this way for 20 minutes? Because I'm hoping that you can see these things. Like there are multiple possibilities always. Always. That's the beauty of it. And exploring them, doing a thought experiment on what could happen if this and if that, or if this didn't, or that allows us to start to be able to imagine different things and see different scenarios and learn different things. Thought experiments are things where we can use the information that we have and try to gain our best idea of what would happen if it goes a particular way. But the more you do that, the more you realize how many myriad of ways it can go. Do I think that Jon Jones will be the light heavyweight champion on the Sunday morning? I think so. But would I be shocked if he's not? I would not be shocked one fucking bit. I would not be shocked if Ben Askren knocked somebody out with a single punch. People are like, hey, it's just a wrestler. You don't have to worry about his hands. Well, that's fucking your first mistake, right? If you do that, you know? Would I be shocked by anything in fighting? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. In the moment, I'd be like, holy fuck, I'd have the shock moment. But in the truth of it, if you ask me any scenario, can Elias Theodoro knock out Luke Rockhold? Of course he can. Is he likely to? I don't think so. You know, and Elias is my friend. I love him. But, I'm drawing on whatever I can, whoever's front of mind here. Stipe Miocic and Demetrius Johnson. Could Demetrius beat him? Fucking rights he could. If it was a really big cage, sure, he could kick that leg all night long, run away from that guy. Of course he could. Would I be shocked? Not at all. Not at all. Right? Everything is possible. That's the beauty of it. That's the beauty of it. And but it also takes away the game of predicting, because you realize how silly it is. Even if you're right 60% of the time, which would make you a millionaire if you had the money and kept investing it in any sport. 60% is going to fucking make you rich if you're a gambler in any sport. And I'm sure gambling experts would say, well, you always have to protect this in such a way as you make these moves, and it might take you a long time. But if you consistently got 60% of things correct and you knew how to gamble, that you wouldn't need a job ever again. 60% is not a fucking lot. In fact, that means 4 out of 10 times you don't know what the fuck is going on. Why? Because it's impossible to really predict so many variables. But it's also why it's so beautiful. And why fights like Jon Jones versus Thiago Santos are still really cool. They're cool because it can happen. I did a piece for TSN when Jon was fighting Anthony Smith. And they ran it on ESPN's YouTube channel. And I said, the trap fight. Why? What's that? Well, that's the element that if everything I've just said happens and you don't take it seriously and don't train seriously, or you don't prepare yourself mentally for the reality of what you're dealing with, or, you overlook it in some way in your preparation, or all of a sudden you find yourself in the cage going, wait a second. George did that. The ultimate trap fight, the ultimate version of this is when George fought Matt Serra the first time. He literally was like, what the fuck am I doing here? Wait a second, I didn't train. Now that's an extreme example, but if you trained less or less focused or with less intensity or with too much intensity or not present or half-assing it or on your phone all the time in jiu-jitsu class or whatever the fuck it is, that's a trap. And if all of these variables are unfolding and you slip on a banana peel and he has the night of his life and you fucking didn't prepare in some way, well, yeah, never mind. All of a sudden you also have some virus we weren't aware of and you weren't quite you. I mean, fuck, of course everybody can win. Of course Thiago Santos could be the champion. And that's awesome. That's the best. That's so cool. This is the best thing ever. People fighting each other. It's the fucking coolest thing ever. And I'll leave you with that today. And I will thank you sincerely for listening to the podcast or watching it and sharing stuff. Please follow my Instagram and Twitter at Robin Black MMA. If you're watching this, within days of it, or listening to it within days of it coming out, then watch for my coverage from Bellator 220. I will also be in Chicago covering Bellator 221. I may be in Ottawa, but more likely I'm in Toronto TSN Studios covering UFC Ottawa. I'll be in London commentating bare knuckle boxing. I'll be in Burlington, Ontario, commentating BTC MMA. There's a lot of fun stuff coming up. And then I'm hoping we go to New York. I'm hoping I could bring Mark and shoot everything and do some more deeper coverage for Chael versus Lyoto, too. So a lot of fun stuff. I have you guys to thank. ShopRobinBlack.com if you want to buy a Bink t-shirt. And until next time, enjoy the hostilities, my friends.